In 1939, Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, published his last work, Moses and Monotheism. In this book, he develops a thesis that is nowadays criticized. The most important prophet of Judaism, Moses, would have been influenced by the religious revolution initiated by the pharaoh Akhenaton about 1,000 years before. There are no remains to confirm this thesis, but it sheds light on the attraction of Akhenaton's religious experience in the search for the first monotheism. In fact, a spiritual break occurred during the reign of this famous pharaoh, confirmed by the numerous archaeological discoveries of the 19th and 20th centuries. Akhenaton turned to a unique god, Aten, disrupting the ancestral beliefs of the Egyptians, who had a pantheon composed of several gods. What were the reasons for and the nature of this change? And why did the successors of Akhenaton methodically destroy all traces of his reign? Akhenaton's reign took place in the most prosperous period of pharaonic history, the New Kingdom, which lasted from the 16th century to the 11th century BC. After expelling the Hyksos, who had gained power, the Egyptian princes of Thebes reunified the two Egypts, Upper and Lower Egypt. A great phase of expansion quickly followed, extending the territory to Nubia, Palestine, and Syria, and allowing the control of the Sinai Road. Commercial relations were established with the great empires of the Middle East, the Hittites, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, testifying to the recovered power of Egypt. Evidences of cultural exchanges are numerous in art and literature. Tribes were brought in by the subjugated peoples, considerably enriching the empire, which became the most powerful of the time. An intense diplomatic activity by exchange of gifts, alliances by marriages or hostages made it possible to ensure peace. The first three pharaohs of the New Kingdom carried out a series of internal reforms, ensuring the development and prosperity of this reunified Egypt. A long period of peace begins. Focus is put on agriculture and breeding, ensuring the subsistence of the people. The administration is reformed. The pharaoh appoints two viziers, a kind of prime minister representing both Lower and Upper Egypt, one located in Thebes, the religious capital, the other in Memphis, the administrative capital. The viziers appoint and control the civil servants, ensuring the management of the royal domain and the civil administration of the country. The laws and the calendar of worship are uniform throughout the territory, which is divided into 40 nomes, constituting the administrative division of Egypt, and which are under the supervision of a local deity. The pharaoh is therefore both the spiritual and political leader, thus ensuring the unity of the country. Egypt is polytheistic, composed of many deities, some of which are more important than others. The religion is particularly complex. The local god is often considered the only one, without denying the other divine forms. The 18th dynasty, which reunified the country and to which Akhenaton belonged, develops the imperial idea by associating itself with the solar cult and its most powerful god, Ra. Royal power reigns on earth, and Ra in the heavens. This dynasty will place itself under the protection of the local deity of Thebes, Amun, who is promoted to dynastic god. He will amalgamate with the great Ra, thus becoming Amun-Ra. The sun is promoted to the rank of principal divinity, and Amun-Ra is the one who recreates the world every day. His will manifests itself through the oracles, who, to accomplish their mission, receive numerous offerings. The clergy of Thebes quickly become powerful and rich, and can legitimize the accession to the throne of certain sovereigns by relying on the notion of theogamy. This means that the sovereign is no longer the son of his father and mother. He is the son of his mother and of Amun, who was incarnated in his father. The pharaoh comes out of this more deified, and thus more strengthened. He is now a living god on earth. The influence of the clergy in the process of theogamy is materialized in the legitimization and the affirmation of the sovereigns. The queen pharaoh Hatshepsut, who will co-rule with Thutmose III, is the most striking example. It is by means of the oracles of Thebes that her accession will be assured. Amun is not totally disconnected from the people. A shift in religion took place during the 18th dynasty, which Egyptologist Jan Assmann calls the new theology of the divine will, which is in fact the advent of personal piety, the fact of being able to implore, pray, and be forgiven in a direct relationship between man and the deity. But in order to be forgiven, one must follow the path of the goddess Maat, who represents order, justice, truth, and stability of the world. The pharaoh must make Maat reign, but is not Maat. Akhenaton's father, Amenhotep III, had a long reign of 30 years, marked by a fever for building, of which the most impressive constructions are in Thebes, Luxor, or Karnak. Amenhotep III will celebrate during his reign jubilees named Heb-Sed festivals. These celebrations aim to regenerate the royal power, generally after 30 years of reign, and to reaffirm its divine nature. The delegates of the neighboring countries and the officials pay homage to the sovereign. The first son of Amenhotep III dies at the age of 20. The pharaoh succumbs in his 38th year, probably from a dental abscess. Small aside, dental problems were recurrent among the Egyptians due to the mixture of sand raised by the wind into the food, which caused erosion of the enamel of the teeth and then infections. Many Egyptians, including pharaohs, succumbed to this disease. Upon the death of Amenhotep III, it is his other son, who is also called Amenhotep and will become Akhenaton, who finds himself in the position of heir to the throne. The young king is crowned under the name of Amenhotep IV. Little is known about his youth. A great debate has long animated the scientific community concerning the possibility of a co-regency with his father. It is impossible to know, but one thing is certain. Upon his accession to the throne at around 10 years old, his legitimacy is undisputed. The influence of his mother, Tia, a woman of character, will undoubtedly participate in his religious disruption. Amenhotep was crowned in Thebes, the city of Amun, around 1353 BC. So, to better situate ourselves in time, we will take the dating of events in the manner of the Egyptians. To them, 1353 BC is year 1 of the reign of Amenhotep IV. He quickly marries around year 4, when he is 13 or 14 years old, Nefertiti, whose name means the beautiful one has come, and whose origins are uncertain. The couple became, for many, a model of love and devotion, before their separation a few years before the death of the pharaoh, probably due to the fact that Nefertiti had not given him a male heir but 6 daughters. Initially, Amenhotep IV is in continuity with his father. The representations of the pharaoh and religious cult do not significantly vary. However, a first religious inflection takes place around year 3. Amenhotep develops a divine entity named Ra-Horakhti. It has the shape of a god with the head of a falcon, surmounted by a solar disk. It is a representation of the power of Ra, the sun, at the zenith, at noon. Amenhotep proclaims himself high priest of this divinity. At the passage of year 4, he celebrates a Sed festival, traditionally held after 30 years of reign. What is the reason for this? To some historians, the fragile nature of the pharaoh is the cause. The young king suffers from a genetic disease which has not yet been defined and which causes a deformation of the body. An elongated face, a developed hydrocephalus, thick lips, a narrow chest, a paunchy belly, wide hips, and an androgynous aspect. This Hebset festival is undoubtedly the occasion to invoke a regeneration of the suffering pharaoh, or to mark his will to become divine under the auspices of this new god. Another hypothesis is that he wishes to mark the beginning of a new era. This jubilee is indeed a first rupture in tradition. In place of Ra Horakhti, there is a unique representation of the solar god in the form of the Aten disk, the radiation of Aten, the rays of the sun in concrete terms, which was already known under the name of Atum Ra in the Old Kingdom. Traces of it are also found under Amenhotep III. The royal bark, as well as a corps of armies, bore the name of the Aten. Aten is represented in the form of a solar disk whose rays end in hands. Amenhotep IV will push the adoration of him to a hitherto unequaled stage. In his honor, sanctuaries and temples were built in Memphis, Karnak, and especially Thebes, the religious capital, under the horrified eyes of the priests of Amun. From a political point of view, it seems quite obvious that the pharaoh intends to recover the power and the wealth of the clergy of Amun. The ruler changes his name. He becomes the one who serves Aten, Akhenaton. The pharaoh then decides to build a new capital. It is Aten himself who would have guided the pharaoh by rising in the entrance of a large desert valley. The site is named the Horizon of Aten, or the Horizon of the Disk, Akhetaton. Today, it is the site of Tel El Amarna, or simply Amarna. The new city is located between Thebes and Memphis. This does not seem insignificant. The construction will last about 3 years, mobilizing thousands of workers in suffocating working conditions. Many children are used. They rarely reach the age of 20. There is no precise urban planning project, just the will to build temples and palaces to the glory of Aten. The buildings are open in order to let the rays of the sun penetrate daily life. The structure of these temples is new. They use smaller and less heavy building stones, talatat. The life of the city is punctuated by the path of the sun and the royal processions, very formal. From then on, the relationship between Akhenaton and the disk Aten was commemorated. The sovereign becomes man's interface with God. An artistic upheaval, timidly initiated under Amenhotep III, develops. It is Amarna art, whose name comes from the new city Amarna. The style is more naturalistic, representing more realistic and less idealized scenes of society. Plants, flowers, and animals abound, recalling the relationship between sunlight and life, present in everything. The disruption of religious thought was part of a movement prior to Akhenaton. In the classical tradition and the cult of Amun, the sun made a nocturnal journey on a boat, confronting the forces of evil, to be reborn in the morning after a fierce battle. Cults were then celebrated in order to help the star in its fight. It was a cycle of life, the day, death, the night, and rebirth, the morning. In the cult of Aten, the sun reappears mechanically every morning. The difference is subtle, but it is a new conception of the world, freed from the notions of good and evil. Aten does not punish according to the actions of men. He is a mute god, and only the pharaoh interprets his will, and by extension, the people must turn to him. The king becomes Mart, the order of things. These complex changes are found in the new relationship to death. The afterlife disappears. Two realities remain: the corpse the effect of death, and the statue of the deceased, the memory of the disappeared being. A new meaning given to mourning. All these religious transformations escape the average Egyptian who continues to venerate the local god. This revolution concerns only the religious and administrative elite. Tolerance was required, but from year 9, Akhenaton's attitude became more radical. He decides to destroy old icons. Why? The accepted theory is that there was growing opposition from the clergy of Amun, stripped of their wealth, which irritated the pharaoh. This is why it is the statues of the creator gods that are destroyed. The logic being, in the cult of Aten, there is no original creation of the world. This is undoubtedly what is called the Heresy of Akhenaten. But no persecution of people is attested. Akhenaton's vindictiveness seems to be more of a political nature, in the will to subdue the clergy of Amun, who had become too powerful. The plural of the word God is erased from many monuments at this time. All these spiritual disruptions should not make us forget other problems. A loss of influence occurred with the neighboring empires, while troubles broke out between the kingdom of Mitanni and the powerful Hittite Empire, whose new king, Suppiluliuma I, proved to be particularly bellicose. Akhenaton's diplomacy was based on a policy of alliances and tribes, not of wars and conquests. In order to regain control, in year 12 he organized a huge reception of the tributary peoples at Amarna. He reaffirmed his power on this occasion, ostentatiously displaying his wealth and his greatness. It is the apogee of Akhenaton's reign. His religious conception is installed, a new capital is built, and the peoples reaffirm their submission. A son is born the same year. He is called Tutankhaten. This presents an enigma which caused great debate. Separated from Nefertiti, with whom was this son conceived? In 2010, DNA analysis concluded that it was one of the sisters of Akhenaton, called Younger Lady. To the Egyptians of the New Kingdom, incestuous relationships are not taboo. Akhenaton even slept with his daughters. In any case, this son is of royal blood. In the 14th year of his reign, Akhenaton lost 3 of his daughters, as well as his mother, Tia, leaving him in total perplexity. In year 17, it was Nefertiti's turn to succumb. References to Amun reappear in the tombs of the late Amarna period, testifying to Akhenaton's possible spiritual disarray. Finally understanding the Hittite threat, he sends troops to Palestine to restore order. But he did not have time to learn of the bitter defeat that the Egyptian army was to suffer at Kadesh. He died at the age of 27 in unknown circumstances, probably due to his genetic illness. His succession is confused. It is now admitted that a mysterious queen would have ascended to the throne. An alliance by marriage with a son of the Hittite king would have been requested. A lot of mystery hovers around this story, but it sheds light on the state of the new kingdom, plunged into full diplomatic and military confusion after the death of Akhenaton. This queen remained at Amarna for 2 more years. The polytheistic pantheon found its place there, attesting to a progressive abandonment of the cult of Aten. This unknown queen dies after a 3-year reign. It is her little brother, Akhenaton's son, Tutankhaten, who accedes to the throne at the age of 7. He has his father buried in the Valley of the Kings. The new pharaoh will continue the restoration of the polytheistic cult initiated by his sister. He changes his name. He becomes Tutankhamun. The cult of Amun returns in force. The city of Amarna empties. Some experts associate this desertion to an epidemic of plague. The abandonment of the cult of Aten is rapid and brutal, shedding light on the gap that had opened up between the religious conceptions of Akhenaton and the Egyptian nobles. The restoration stele, found in 1905 and dating from the time of Tutankhamun, announces that the reform is finished. In other words, Aten became again a god like all the others. The enterprise of systematic destruction of the traces of Akhenaton's reign will be carried out under other pharaohs. In 1907, a mysterious tomb belonging to a pharaoh was discovered in the Valley of the Kings. It bears the name of KV55. This one was ransacked and the face of the mummy mutilated. But this is not the work of looters, because the tomb was then closed and sealed. This mystery caused a huge controversy for over a century, but in 2010, DNA analysis confirmed that it was Akhenaton. This desecration could have been decided by his successors, who wished to prevent any rebirth of the heretic pharaoh in the afterlife, the worst punishment in the eyes of the Egyptians. His nickname of the Cursed King is never lost. Akhenaton's heresy constitutes a turning point in the history of attitudes. The religious upheavals that he oversaw are in many ways revolutionary. Many researchers see in it the first intent of a global explanation of the world based on a unique principle. By opening up these perspectives on solar radiation, the energy and heat that emanate from it as a source of life, the pharaoh put himself in a position that could be described as modern. Probably too modern for his time, and certainly too radical to be well perceived in such a superstitious society. The immediate desire to erase his memory is proof of this. Some see him as the inventor of the first monotheism. The most accurate term would be that of henotheism, the action of giving worship to a predominant god without denying the existence of other gods. Today, Akhenaton is considered an intellectual leader ahead of his time, whose power to fascinate has not dried up since his discovery. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and see you soon for a new episode.